Welcome to FootballGamePlan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Memory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Bring you our 2012 Mid-American Conference preview. We're going to take a look at the MAC top to bottom. So let's start with the recruiting trail to see how well these teams recruited this past offseason.
I think the Red Hawks had the best recruiting class in the MAC this year. Look at head coach Don Treadwell getting guys that can come in and compete right away. This team is definitely headed in the right direction, but the guy that stands out the most to me is Orlando David. With his size and athleticism, I think down the line, this will be a guy that will cause many defensive coordinators sleepless nights. What stands out the most to me about Jake Minster, the linebacker for Western Michigan, is the fact that he can cover, and that's a valuable asset this year, this day and age in defense. Speaking of covering, Mike Cotton is another guy that can also excel in coverage, but he's a big thumper, 6'2", 230, is going to do fine at Huskies defense. Jalen Colby, you see the theme right here, linebackers. Toledo got themselves a great linebacker, sideline to sideline with a lot of speed and athleticism. Bowling Green's quarterback, James Napke, one guy that I really like that is decisive with the football and makes accurate passes. Speaking of quarterbacks, you look at Ozzie Mann. Ball State got themselves a guy that's not afraid to make the tough throw, and that's what you want out of your QB. You look at A.J. Doyle, who is a tremendous passer but can also do a lot of damage on the ground. Marcus McGill will make Buffalo Bulls fans very happy as he lays out for passes, and rarely do you see receivers die for football nowadays. He's going to be a tremendous player. I like what I see out of Jatavius Brown, linebacker, undersized guy, but is always in on a tackle, also brings a lot of speed to the position. Colton Metz is a linebacker that's 6'5", 220 pounds, can play outside in that 3-4 defense and does a great job of setting the edge. You look at Greg Wyndham, quarterback of Ohio, another dual threat guy that can do damage with his legs leaving the pocket. Jawan Lewis is one of my favorite prospects. This guy, running back, 5'10", 208, has the speed to take it the distance. What stands out about Salo Lavalle is his burst through the line of scrimmage. I think he's going to do fine in that Chippewa backfield. The Rockets, in my opinion, have the best quarterback combination in Terrence Owens and also Austin Danton. Combined 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Both guys do a great job of leading that Rockets offense. I think the Buffalo Bulls have the best running back combination. They have a star in Brandon Oliver, but they also have a guy coming back from injury in James Potts. Keep an eye on that guy. So combined, they have the best duo in the league. The Chippewas boast the best receiving core, in my opinion. They have a trio of guys that's outstanding. You look at Titus Davis, Cody Wilson is a star, in my opinion, and Jerry Harris. They also get their tight ends involved as well. So keep an eye on sophomore tight end Jarrett Fleming. He should have a big year this year for Central Michigan. The Bobcats have the best offensive line, in my opinion. They're very strong on the interior. You look at Skylar Allen. Eric Herman is the talented right guard, second team on MAC. And John Lechner, another big guy on the interior, 6'5", 332 pounds. There's a reason why teams like Ohio do a great job offensively. I think Kent State has the best defensive line. Roosevelt Nix is a guy that I really like to watch. This guy, 4.5 sacks, 12.5 TFLs. Now, you team him up next to his line mate, Dana Brown, and both guys do a great job of collapsing the pocket and causing problems to opposing offensive lines. When you run a 4-2-5 defense, you need those two linebackers to step up and make a lot of plays, and the Bowling Green Falcons have two of the best in the country. You look at Dwayne Woods, over 111 tackles last year, 12 TFLs, and also Paul Swine, another guy that cleans up the mess, does a great job also in pass coverage. Making plays on the ball adequately describes the Ohio Bobcats secondary. They have the best in the conference, led by Travis Carey, the outstanding corner who has a bright future. Gerald Moore is an outstanding free safety that does a great job of eliminating mistakes. They have a ball-hawking secondary unit. Brian Schmied-Bush is one of the best punters in the country. This guy was a first-team All-MAC performer and also a Ray Guy finalist. And they have an outstanding returner in Boo Boo Gates. Keep an eye on this guy. This guy can definitely take it to the house, has that speed, had one kickoff return last year, average over 25 yards a return. Nick Hartwell of Miami of Ohio gets my vote for the offensive MVP. Almost 1,400 yards last season, well over 1,400 yards, 9 touchdowns. Look for him to increase his touchdown production this season. Tremendous player. Defensive MVP, Travis Carey out of Ohio. Ball hawking, 4 interceptions last year, and is always around the football and is a ferocious tackler at 5'11", 210 pounds. Freshman of the year, in my opinion, has to go to Jawan Lewis. I think this guy is a special talent. Eastern Michigan got themselves a steal. We had this guy highly rated over here at Football Game Plan, and now they bring him into that offense. If he gets a shot, I guarantee he won't let it go because this guy's a tremendous playmaker. best pro prospect in the MAC, I have to go with two quarterbacks. Alex Carter out of Western Michigan just does a great job of putting that team on his back and making plays downfield. And Zach Dicer, despite not having a running game, this guy is still able to put up big numbers. Both guys have a bright future ahead of them. Let's start with the East Division. I have UMASS finishing 7th. This is a team that's stepping up from the FCS ranks, and this is a very solid team. And down the line, I think they'll be a force to be reckoned with in the MAC. But right now, that 3-4 defense is going to have to lead this team. I think their defense is far along than their offense, and I look for these guys to put a lot of pressure on opposing offenses this year. Offensively, they got great protection up front, but they got to find a running back, and they have to find playmakers on the flanks as they're breaking in some newbies. So look for this team to struggle this year, but look for year 2 and 3 in the MAC to be good for UMass. Terry Bowden begins his first season as the Akron Zips head coach, and there's some pieces in place offensively for him to have some marginal success this year. In particular, the running back position. Jawan Chisholm is a guy that's probably going to reach over 1,200 yards this year on the ground, came close the last 2 seasons. And you also look at quarterback Clayton Moore, better fit for the spread, so that's going to increase his production. He just has to cut down on interceptions. Now, defensively, last place everywhere you look defensively, they're going to have to stop people, or it's going to be a lot of shootouts out there in Akron. I have the Bulls finishing 5th in the East Division. I think they may actually be better than their record may indicate. They have a very tough road schedule, both in conference and out of conference, so this team may struggle on the road. But you have to like the reasons for optimism, which is the tailback, Brandon Oliver. This guy's going to put up some big numbers behind that veteran offensive line, and defensively, bringing over Lou Tepper will help that defense. Now, the cause for concern, you lose Khalil Mack. That's a huge loss to that defense, and the receiving core is fairly new. But what we will learn from the Bulls this season is the fact that they will compete in every ball game, but the schedule is too tough for them to make any headway in the MAC. Next up are the Red Hawks of Miami of Ohio. I have these guys finishing 4th. Their passing game is quite possibly the best in the MAC. These guys can throw the football all over the field. You look at the quarterback combination of Zach Dicer throwing the football to Nick Harwell, one of the best in the country, quite honest. The question is the running game. Will they be able to run the football this year? They couldn't do so last year, and it put them in backed up situations. Defensively, they will be stout. They'll be very solid. Big fan of DJ Brown and what he does out there on the corner. Now, you look at the schedule, it's very tough. They're going to have to pull off an upset just to get to bowl eligibility. If they can do so, I can see this team winning 6 or maybe 7 games. I think the Golden Flashes are a team that's on the rise. I look at what they bring to the table. Defense, and more defense. And they're going to be even stout this year as the 7 starters return from an already tough defense that was 2nd in total defense. Now look at the offensive side of football. They struggled last year in the first half of the season, but the second half they caught fire. So you have to think year 2 in this system, in Darrell Hazel's system, they'll improve. And I think that's where you see the progression. They have a very good offensive line, nice quarterback in Spencer Key. So look for his production to go up. I think the Flashes get into a bowl game this season. I'm excited to see what Bowling Green can do this year to challenge Ohio in the East Division. When you look at this team on paper, offensively, they have a lot of newbies that they got to break in at the receiver position. That could be a detriment, but the running game, the offensive line, and the QB spots are solidified. They're very talented. Quarterback Matt Shields should put up huge numbers this season. Defensively, best linebacking core I mentioned before, 4-2-5. They're led by Paul Swan and Dwayne Woods. Those guys do a great job of playing downhill. Look for this team to challenge Ohio. November 7th, they have to travel to Athens. That's going to be the game of the year in the Eastern Division. I have the Bobcats finishing 1st in the East Division. Now look at what they do offensively. That up-tempo style puts a lot of pressure on opposing defenses as far as fatigue is concerned. You can't get you guys in and out of the game to compete. Tyler Tettleton, the quarterback, does a great job in facilitating the football, getting everyone involved. He has to break in new receivers as they lose Levon Brazil, but there's still enough talent on this roster for these guys to be competitive. Defensively, they have the best secondary in the conference, and I think that's going to help these guys out as they face these spread attacks. When you look at the schedule, they don't get Northern Illinois this year. They get Bowling Green to come to Athens. I think they get Penn State at the right time. I can honestly see Ohio finishing the season undefeated. Now let's move over to the West. I have Central Michigan finishing 6th, and the reason why, their defense struggled mightily last year. Third down defense was a problem. They gave up a lot of big plays downfield as well, so they have to find a way to get that done. You look at the head coach, Dan Enos, who's a quarterback at Michigan State, so the offense is going to be fine this year. I actually like their receiving core as the best in the conference. Throwing the football, you have to look at quarterback Ryan Radcliffe. Can he cut down on the interceptions? And they will have some more success out of the running game. But overall, I look at this team having to outscore people in order to be competitive this season. I look at Ball State in the same category as a team like Central Michigan. I have them finishing 5th. But when I look at this team, defensive question marks all over the football field. They got to get better in pass defense. They got to get better in getting to the quarterback. But offensively, they have a well-balanced offensive attack. I actually like the interior of the offensive line. I think that's their strength of their offense. That's going to open up holes for Jawan Edwards to run the football. He should have an outstanding sophomore campaign. The schedule is sets up a little bit nicer than Central Michigan's, and I know Pete Limbo will do a great job of getting this team ready to play week in, week out. I have Eastern Michigan finishing 4th in the West Division. I think this is my surprise team in the West. I actually like what they bring to the table. I'm a big fan of quarterback Alex Gillett and what he brings as far as a dual threat type of quarterback. Look for this year for him to scale back on the running game as they have some talented tailbacks. They have to break in new wide receivers. Seems like that's the theme right here in the MAC. But defensively, I think they're going to be still a very good defense up front. Now the schedule, they have some tough road games. They go to Ohio, they go to Bowling Green, Purdue, and Michigan State. But I think they're very winnable games at home for Eastern Michigan to make a bowl game for the first time in a very long time. Losing that much offense when you lose one guy in Chandler Harness will definitely put you at the 3rd slot in the West Division. So I think Northern Illinois has an uphill battle offensively. A lot has to be proven. But when you look at their defense, a defense that got better later on in the season, returning 9 starters, you have to like the chances. They will be in every ball game. And new quarterback Jordan Lynch doesn't have to come in here and beat Chandler Harness. He just has to beat Jordan Lynch. And I think with the veteran players they have offensively, may not have been starters last year, but a lot of guys played. I think Northern Illinois will do a great job of taking advantage of a very soft early part of the schedule to get on a roll and get back into a bowl game. I have the Rockets finishing 2nd in the West, and I think this team is set up perfectly to make a decent run at the West title. I have 2 great quarterbacks. Anytime you have 1 great quarterback, you're in a good chance to win the title, but you have 2, and I think they're going to do fine. That's Owens and Denton I'm talking about. The rest of the offense, juniors and seniors. So yes, they have to replace 7 starters, but when you have a lot of juniors and seniors on your 2 deep, you're going to be fine. Defensively, they lose a lot of starters, but here's a misleading statistic. These guys get guys back that missed the entire season from injury, so Toledo is sitting in a very good spot to challenge Western Michigan for the MAC title. Led by one of the best quarterbacks in the conference, a pro prospect in Alex Carter, look for Western Michigan to win the West Division. I like what this team brings to the table. Yes, they lose a big play wide receiver in Jordan White, but you look at what they do have coming back. Look at Eric Manette, the senior. I think this guy is going to be ready for a breakout campaign. Matt Cutler, the tight end, another guy that's poised for a breakout. Now look at the running back, Brian Fields. All these new guys that are stepping in as starters will have an opportunity for success this year. Defensively, very good defense in my opinion as far as stopping the pass is concerned. They have to bulk up on the defensive front. That's the biggest question. If they're going to get run on, they're going to have to get off the field on 3rd down. That could be a problem for Western Michigan. But here's the thing. Their schedule sets up very nice for these guys. 6 home games in Waldo Stadium. That should get these guys over the hump in winning the Western Division crown.